You've taken everything from me!
Your feelings for her are not real.
They are real to me!
Jean Baudrillard. Jean?
British?
Jean Baudrillard is a French philosopher born in Reims in 1929. He attended the University of Paris and began publishing works regarding sociology and the nature of hyper-reality. One of his most popular works is the book Simulacrus et Simulation, which delves into the duality of simulacrum and simulation. The definition of simulacrum in this case are things made that either have no origin or no longer have origin, a complete fabrication, or one who no longer has any bearing. A simulation, on the other hand, is the imitation of a real-world thing over time. The simulacra evolves over stages until they no longer reflect any reality and thus become a reality of themselves in a state of hyper-reality. The simulation becomes more than reality, or more real than reality. This is specific to the concept that the simulacra creates a world, often in media, where the lines between what is fiction and reality blend to a point that is unrecognizable or at least lacking any clear distinction. Jean Baudrillard, in particular, challenged a Canadian philosopher named Herbert Marshall McLuhan, despite taking large influence from his ideas. McLuhan stated, "The medium is the message," whereas the Baudrillard theory on hyperreality takes it farther and discussed the implosion or internal devour of the message. There is not only an implosion of the message in the medium, there is, in the same movement, the implosion of the medium itself in the real. The implosion of the medium and the real in a sort of hyper-real nebula, in which even the definition and distinct action of the medium can no longer be determined.
God.
Did you know that Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is only 41 gigabytes? It's probably fewer gigs than the Minecraft server that the Sandra family are fighting on. So if you haven't heard yet, Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is arguably one of the best games of the last decade and will most likely enter many people's top 10 lists to be unmoved for a long time coming. It has entered mine, and there are many things to like about this game. In particular, one of the most talked about things is the ending of the game, or rather the two endings it provides. Whenever asked about it, I am provided a statement of, did you pick the good or the bad ending? To which I'd always ask which is which, often getting puzzled faces in response, as if it was shocking that I didn't know what they were talking about. I take issue with this. I am not here to convince you that one ending is better than the other. I'm here to convince you that they are substantially closer together than you'd expect, and I am ready to get really pretentious as I do so. But first, a snack. I can't do this anymore! For our very special Expedition 33 video today, I'm assuming you will need some kind of food to enjoy during it, and what better place to get that than Factor, the best meal service on the market right now. Factor is particularly three great things. It is cheap, it is fantastically tasty, and it is also very easy to heat up. You simply pop it into the microwave for a couple of minutes, and right there you have exactly the kind of meal meal that you want, whether that's a high protein, a low calorie, or some kind of keto or something in between. Factor has you covered for all of that. So go ahead and go down in the description to check out Factor right now, and go ahead and use code BrickyFB50 to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year at the link in the description. Thank you so much to Factor for sponsoring this video. Stick out the side now. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was developed by Sandfall Interactive, a small team of 33 developers who oversaw the main project that was labored upon by themselves and a substantial amount of freelance developers, as well as one very good dog. The game centers around the fictional French-inspired world of Lumiere, where a god-like entity known as the Paintress lowers a number upon a giant monolith every year. When she does this, she enacts the Gommage, in which everyone of the age coinciding with the number is killed. For this, the expeditions are created, numbered after the monolith. These are comprised of people on their final year before the Gommage to head out and stop the Paintress before she can enact another Gommage and kill another year of the population. We are part of Expedition 33, an ever-dwindling group of expeditioners as Lumiere becomes more and more vacant. To be in your 30s is to be an old man or woman in this culture. Children born now will not live past their teenage years, and in less than a decade, the population here might as well cease to be. Alongside this, there is an esteemed group of painters known as the Descendres. Damn it. This family consists of Renoir, the father, Aline, the mother, their children Clea, Verso, and Alicia, as well as their dogs Noko and Monoko. This family are not just painters, but magical painters. Their ability to paint is to use one's own soul and energy to weave life into a canvas, to create people and worlds and pour their body and minds into the easel. There is a rival faction, however. The Descendre family are the painters, and opposing them are the writers. The writers, in an act of sabotage, started a fire in the Descendre manor, and in a selfless act, their son Verso saved the life of his younger sister Alicia, perishing in the process. The mother, Aline, racked with grief at her son's death, decides to delve herself into Verso's childhood canvas and live her life in his world instead. She repaints her entire family and pours her grief into this painted world of his. Yet, being in this world for so long is very bad for the body and mind, and doing so is slowly killing her. Renoir, her husband, enters this world in an attempt to force her out, but she is a more skilled painter, and so only with the assistance of his daughter Clea's help can he slowly, ever slowly, force Aline away. Every year in the canvas, Aline's oldest creations are removed as Renoir slowly gains the upper hand over her in an attempt to save her from forcibly ending her life by drowning in the canvas of her dead son. This canvas Aline's painted family exists in is the world of Lumiere. The Gommage is Renoir slowly gaining the upper hand over Aline and deleting her oldest creations from inside Verso's childhood canvas. Our world, our characters, and the unimaginable suffering of the people of Lumiere are due to the marital infighting of two magical painters who might as well be gods. This fighting began 67 canvas years ago, and it is where our story takes place. The daughter of Aline, in an attempt to help her father remove her from the canvas, enters roughly around Gommage year 50 and change, but is unable to overpower Aline's painting skills, so is instead reborn as one of her creations, a baby child in Lumiere. Given the name Maëlle, she joins Expedition 33 at her younger age, unaware of her ability to be a paintress. Now, our merry band of adventurers, thanks to the immense power granted to them by the inventions of one Gustave, are able to take down the paintress with the help of the painted version of Verso, Aline's best recreation of her perished son. Now free from his wife's power, he plans to help take Alicia, now Maëlle, out of the canvas and destroy it once and for all so that Aline can't accidentally or purposefully end her life inside Verso's canvas. Alicia, who has lived an entire life as Maëlle, does not want her whole life friends and surrogate family removed forever, let alone the only canvas that contains a fragment of the soul of her dead brother. This eventually leads us to the impasse with the final fight of the game, the painted version of Verso, a man who is aware he is not the real Verso and is tired of living in this world and the suffering its gods are causing, would rather face oblivion than let the Desandra family destroy themselves. Mael/Alicia, left mute and horribly scarred and missing an eye from the fire, refuses this oblivion painted Verso seeks and would rather choose those of the painting than those of the outside world. Choosing which side you support is the final ending of the game. Destroy the canvas and forever destroy its inhabitants while saving the Desandra family and putting Verso's soul to rest, or keep the canvas and consign Verso to a life he doesn't want and Alicia to her own self-destruction while saving everyone inside. Now, it's time to get serious, so we gotta lose the fancy, funny glasses and put on the, excuse me, actually shades. Now, unsurprisingly, there is a lot to unpack in this, and my extremely short explanation of what the game's story entails is quite brief. The game director of Expedition 33, oh man, Guillemot Broche? The game director of Expedition 33 states that there is no good or bad ending, and that internally the team argues often about which is considered the better choice of the two. They are equally tragic and have pros and cons. What hamstrings most players into one of the two endings is that Verso's ending in particular is a combination of many factors that all lead up to the crescendo of the game. And I don't really blame people for thinking it's the better ending directly off the rip, but the more I delved into the game and the side content, not to mention the character stories and replaying the game 2 more times, my opinion got a lot more muddled. My opening shtick about Jean Baudrillard was generally asking the question that determines which side of the fence you will land on. Are the people of the painted world real, and therefore worth the same treatment as those that are in the world of the Desandra family? So, the French are no strangers to philosophy, and a substantially large amount of ideals come into play during this game. It isn't as blatant as naming a random NPC Jean-Baptiste or the boss Beauvoir, but considering the general themes of the day, it comes up quite often. Particularly of note are the works of Paul Ricoeur. God damn it. We're running low on baguette. I said I'd buy a baguette every time I mispronounce the French name, but it's like the whole essay. Julian Miguel. Just tell me how to say it.
So stay tuned to the channel to learn more. Paul Ricoeur.
Thank you, Julian. Particular of note are the works of Paul Ricoeur. Ricoeur spends a lot of emphasis on societal masking and identity and believes that we as people are spending our time writing and rewriting ourselves in a way to create a visage that suits an end or a perceived end, a viable means to an end, not just for ourselves, but for others around us. Though not French, the Italian style of theater known as commedia dell'arte, that's not French, I don't gotta take a bite, fits this idea too. Its performance involved wearing a mask, and the mask was the embodiment of the character, not the actor. The actors who wore the mask could not take the mask off, and they did not have their own flourish. Once they wore the mask, they had to be that character. And you can see this reflected also in pantomime, which was a derivative of the commedia dell'arte. Yeah, it's all very well surmised with one of the better Renoir quotes of the game.
Art can be a window, and art can be a mirror. And great art is both. Son, you'll never be a true artist if there's always a mask between you and the viewer, especially when the viewer is you.
For the most part, Paul Ricoeur really embodies Aline, as she herself literally rewrote a version of herself and her circumstances as a means to an end. But I think it embodies the character of Verso a lot more. Verso is, for better or worse, one of the main driving forces of the entire game, both in life and in death. The real Verso we know shockingly little about, and it's inferred that for the most part, the painted Verso is very similar to how the real one was.
Some of Eileen's finest work.
Painted Verso, however, is a very complicated character. His existence is naturally painful. He is fully aware that the real Verso existed here in this canvas and that he is not the actual one, yet has had his persona of a man he never knew thrusted onto him. He has the memories of Verso, he has the personality of Verso, and considering Renoir's statement, he might as well be the closest thing to the actual man since it's pulling from a canvas that contains his soul. But he knows all of this and the knowledge of his creation in such a way that brings a level of mortality to his immortal form. Verso's end goal for most of the game is to simply stop his fictional parents from fighting. It's all he cares about. The Desandre family is ripping apart themselves and this world that he is a part of, not to mention seeing expedition after expedition arrive and perish. If he can put an end to all of that, even if it means his own destruction, he is more than fine with it. And for a large majority of the game, Verso's ideals align directly with that of the real Renoir. The irony being that once the real Renoir arrives, his thoughts change. The major change-up in the entering of Act 3 is that Maëlle believes there is a middle ground between destroying the entire canvas and Eileen destroying herself in it, that there is a way to coexist between the two, and for the most part, Verso goes along with this plan. An often asked question I hear when the game is over is, why did Verso even take part of the final fight if his goal was the same as Renoir's? And the answer to that is much better realized when you replay the fight. You can visibly see each point in which Verso reevaluates his decisions, particularly when Eileen re-enters the canvas so quickly after being banished. Verso as a character is one that's a bit difficult to keep up with on the first playthrough. Between his constant lying to the main cast and viewing him as actually the painted version as opposed to the normal version, there's a lot to dissect on that second playthrough. I find the concept of visages particularly interesting because it acts both as a conduit for painted Verso and real Verso. Now, a reminder, Renoir painted the Axons, which are boss enemies that represent each of his family members. Seren is Eileen, the Reacher Maëlle, the Hauler Clea, and Visage is Verso. Visage's main concept is masks, and those who hide truth with lies. Real-life Verso was often hiding his true wants and desires underneath a mask of what his family wanted and the expectations that were put upon him. He, in particular, was a big fan of music and playing the piano, and cared far more about that than anything relating to painting. Visage's fights with conductor batons to really hammer this point home. But painted Verso also hides truth with lies. He deceives the main cast in order to trick them into an outcome that will end their lives in order to save Eileen and the Desandre family. He doesn't give sorry to Esquier in fear that they may return to Lumiere too soon and not fight the paintress. His name, Verso, also means the back of something, which even though he is named after the real Verso, you could say alludes to his painted version as well.
People want so badly to know what's behind the mask. Front, back, recto, verso. Great art is both window and mirror. Whether it's your mask or theirs.
Harmless, huh?
Verso, for most of the game, shares the same feelings as the real Renoir, and in doing so finds himself allying with the general thoughts of another French philosopher, Jean-Paul Sartre. What you got for me, Julian?
How to pronounce the name of famous French philosopher, novelist, author, and political figure, also a screenwriter.
Say the name.
Famous personality
Say the
in
name.
France, Born 1905.
Brother, Jean-Paul Sartre is a very popular figurehead in French philosophy and is generally considered to be the father of existentialism. He's also the robot with the funny hat in Nier Automata who's obsessed with Beauvoir, who is Jean-Paul's real-life partner and leader of a pronounced feminist movement back in the mid-1900s. A pair of pipes on that gal.
What the hell?
Existentialism is the concept that existence precedes essence. The individual creates the value of things and not the reality that precedes them. The general idea of Sartrean philosophy is steeped in the idea of l'angoisse, I'm just gonna guess on that one, or the anguish, which is the fear that we feel when we confront our freedom. This is something he covers in Being and Nothingness. The example he gives us is the idea of experiencing vertigo while looking over a cliff. The idea that the vertigo isn't a fear of us falling, but a fear that we may throw ourselves over the cliff. We don't have a desire to do so, we have quite the opposite, but we recognize how palpable it is. No matter what we've resolved to this point, nothing prevents us from completely undermining it in the now or the future. The other example he gives is that of a gambling addict. The addict resolved to overcome the addiction, but when the addict sees the gambling table, he is still drawn to it. Freedom is a burden. We don't get to run on autopilot. We are responsible for the life we are living. The idea of absolute freedom and absolute autonomy fits the realm of existence precedes essence, which is the personal responsibility of their own life. You have absolute autonomy and are free to shape your actions in life even if these choices are difficult. The world that Verso rejects, though beautiful and filled with desire and love and growth, is not an authentic life. Trapping oneself in the painting would prevent him from the authentic and real experience of life, even if that means obliteration. And Mael's rejection of his own personal autonomy and willingness to die is a transgression to that belief. This also ties into the idea of freedom, as mentioned with Mael. Though painting was a means of freedom for Verso outside of the painting, it has resulted in him being imprisoned within the painting. Leaving and facing oblivion is his one true way to find freedom. Renoir is a far more direct form of existentialism. He is from the outside world in its totality, and he is only here to bring his wife back to his reality. There is absolutely zero reason for Renoir to believe anything in the canvas is real, because to him, it isn't. This is all a fabrication, an addiction that is seeing his wife slowly die, and so why should he care about the inhabitants of the canvas, or the canvas in general? What's particularly humorous about this is that, unlike his daughter Clea, Renoir actually often shows genuine care to the people who are in the canvas.
I regret that it caused you so much pain. What Aline did was unfair to you most of all. Please, accept the Descendre family's apologies.
The real irony is that even though Renoir does not consider this a true and real way to live, he still does treat everyone with respect. His reality is far more simple. This is in the way of my family. My wife and daughter want to drown themselves in this world, and so I will destroy the world. I'm sorry, but I don't care. My family, my kids. The recto to this would be, of course, Mael and Alicia. The reverse of this Sartrean philosophy is that no, this world is real, and therefore it deserves to survive despite where it ends up in this universe. Mael, of course, has a large amount of reasons to want to keep herself in the canvas. She lived an entire life in here, and so has an entire childhood spending time with the people of Lumiere. In the outside world, she is heavily disabled, losing her voice, her eye, and disfiguring much of her body. Her parents are constantly fighting, her sister is not what one would call the kindest, and her brother is dead. In the canvas world, she has a voice, she has a brother, she has a family. And if you were playing some kind of philosophy bingo, this is where you'd stand up and call it as I bring up the very obvious Albert Camus. I think I did that one okay. Albert Camus is a major name in modern absurdism and is responsible for its contemporary popularity, which considers the idea that life has no meaning. Therefore, one should experience it to its fullest extent possible. Now, life has no meaning is often associated with nihilism and the frowning friends, but most particularly Friedrich Nietzsche. Now, Nietzsche's outlook is far more bleak, and also there was that whole horse thing too, and so, you know, rip to a real one, Friedrich, you would have loved Usamusime. Absurdism predominantly believes that due to life having no meaning, living the best possible life is the ultimate goal. We're all gonna die, so YOLO, as the kids say, or as my kid version of me would say. This is how Camus lived his life, and he was in turn quite the playboy and partied quite often. Maëlle effectively decides that this is the way she wants to live her life. She sees no point in her life in the outside world, so she sees zero issue with living her final days in this one. One thing that you will find in French philosophy is the concept of freedom being an overwhelming force for decisions. Alicia had things taken from her by the fire, and through Maëlle, she is able to truly be free. This world, the canvas, is bleak and grim at times, but she is able to embrace this and make something good from the remains. The preservation of this world is done with hopefulness. This should not also even need to be discussed when it comes to the other members of the party. Ciel and Lune are clearly in favor of saving the canvas because it is the only existence they know of, and they actually take it in stride really fast, particularly Ciel, who maybe has the best response to it of all.
Everything I knew about our world is wrong. And you know what? I don't care. 'Cause death isn't death anymore. And that means I can see my husband again.
Ciel.
Oh, please. I'd sacrifice you in a heartbeat to get him back. So, I understand. We're good.
Thank you.
Minoko, of course, being the embodiment of a dog, just ends up doing whatever Verso is down for, good or bad, and only puts up some resistance. And Esquier is just there to be the best goddamn character in gaming. But despite this, the thing I hear the most regarding difference in the endings is, but the painting isn't real. And it's always about that. It's always about that. It's the painting is not real. These people are not real. This isn't the real world. If you were to just be explained the plot of Expedition 33 and not go through the motions, you would probably feel the same way too. But it just feels so short-sighted and goes against everything the entire first act and name of the game was trying to show you. The care you had for these characters when they were real to you to be simply undone the moment you find out that they are not, I think it not only goes against what I believe Claire Obscure is trying to say, but is a major disservice to the emotional storytelling that brought you there to begin with. How do you undo the mental effect the gommage does to you in the first hour just because you know it isn't real anymore? So, let's ask the question, is the canvas real? First things first, yes, there is a distinction between the outside world and the canvas world. I hesitate to call the outside world the real world in this video because it's a world of magical painters. I don't have all the facts, but it is, at the end of the day, generally unimportant. What constitutes this as real? If we asked Jean-Paul Sartre, he would say that they aren't real. Existence precedes essence. This is not an authentic life, and it would not count. If we ask Camus, he would probably say, who gives a shit? I'm 9 gin and tonics in, pass me that madame over there. Ugh.
500 cigarettes.
If we ask Descartes, yeah, it's time again. Take a bite out of the other end this time. That was a lot of bread. If we ask Descartes, whose image has been completely ruined by this meme back here, he would be purely logistical and probably cite the animal machine. The animal machine being the groundwork surrounding all philosophy when discussing something like consciousness. The Turing test is a more modern take on this, and if we are using that as our main metric, then every single person in the painting would pass. Now, if we look at Jacques Lacan, or maybe Lacan, and his Lacanianism, you also have the concept of returning to non-being, which is a whole other bingo. Lacanianism says there are 3 registers of the mind, being real, symbolic, and imaginary. When we are born and don't understand anything, we are in the real, just pure baby, goo goo gaga, and bliss. Then eventually, we enter mirroring and semi-intuition, which leads to self-recognition or the imaginary. Then we develop thoughts and language, and now we have the symbolic, which makes us a person. This would classify each and every person in Lumiere as a real, genuine person. The beginning with the real, and then the symbolic and the imaginary and all that, much like a person would. Humans also, under Lacanianism, have something called the lack, which is the instinctual desire to return back to the real. But because of the complexity of our minds as we grow, we don't have the ability to do so because the knowledge of the real is impossible to return to. It, as a concept, is unobtainable because even being able to name this part shows awareness of it. So we spend our lives trying to go back to the state of the real by filling the void with various things such as escapism or obliteration. A bit of irony I find to be particularly humorous is certain proponents of Verso's ending point to the soul of Verso represented by the young boy nodding his head when he is asked if he wants to stop painting, which is absolutely the truth. And I fully believe him to want that at this moment. It also shows that those people did not do all the side content for the game, because a version of the same Verso in Clea's Plaza says, and I quote, "For me, everything in this canvas is as much alive as what is outside. I welcome them all. Painting should be celebrated. Take care of yourself and the paintings around you." The soul of Verso does not believe the painting or the act of painting to be a negative force. What is negative is the destruction wrought by the Descendre feud. He actually goes on about how he believes all things here are real to him, and at the end of the day, the soul of Verso is the blank paper this canvas is etched onto. Now, you might assume he believes this because this is the soul of the young Verso, the boy Verso, but then that would also invalidate his own opinions when he nods his head at the end because children are stupid. But truly, if you had to hold one person up in this entire game and judge the entirety of the canvas on it to determine if this is real, it would be Gustav. Gustav is the canvas and Lumiere more than anyone else in the game. He is the ideal man. And I miss him a lot. He's kind-hearted, he's sweet, he's funny, he's courageous, and he's intelligent. He makes mistakes, he struggles, he falls, and he gets back up every time. He is pure of heart, and he is pure of soul. The entire first act of the game, he was real to you as the player. He has suffered an unimaginable existence. Parents Gommage probably in his teens or earlier. His relationship with Sophie unattainable because of the decision to have kids or not in this cruel world. He has experienced a level of suffering that many have felt in Lumiere due to the Descendre feud and yet continues on regardless. He spends his last year of life on a suicidal mission in an act of selfless bravery. He fosters a paintress and unknowingly gives her a good enough life to make her want to stay to her own detriment. Gustav is the name of the Eiffel Tower designer and also one of the most important names in French literature, Gustave Flaubert. Maybe. But in many Scandinavian countries, Gustav is believed to mean staff of the gods or royal staff and is often the name used for your fearless leader. Now, this staff of the gods can more directly refer to both Gustav and also his Lumina converter, this tech that he invented that allows the party to become so powerful they are able to fell the paintress. Gustav invented the power to kill God, his God, and rid his world of the suffering he has experienced to no end. And one has to start asking, if the creatures can reject their own gods, are they not worthy of being considered real? Lune remarks that painted beings can't exit the painting, yet Mael comments to Verso that he shouldn't be allowed to be here when he sees the soul of the real Verso. If the beings can reject their own creators, I don't think it's too far of a leap to assume they could do more than that. Gustav is held aloft as the true test of the ending, regardless of him being there or not. There is a prevailing theory that if he would have survived to the end, he would have convinced Mael to leave the canvas, or to at least try, perhaps in a way where Renoir in fact doesn't destroy it and she can come and go freely and the family can recover in a way where the canvas survives. The ultimate irony, though, is that in Painted Verso's manipulation of the cast, he purposely let the one man who could have saved it all die in order to force a zeal out of them to lead to their own self-obliteration. When I originally beat the game, I didn't get a choice in my ending. I had autoplay on and clicked just as it was swapping text, so I couldn't see who I chose. I ended up choosing Mael, but it didn't really feel like I chose anyone. I just went back to do it again when I could. And what really hit me was that both endings felt really hard to stomach. Neither made me feel good. Verso's ending provided me with a sense of closure, but purely tears of sadness, where Mael's made me much more conflicted, but seeing Ciel with her husband and Gustav and Sophie again made me cry much happier tears.
It's my team. It's my quarterback.
If you're taking a purely utilitarian view, you need to determine whether or not you believe the people of the painting to be real, because then you can result in the choice for maximized happiness. Verso's ending believes that they do not have consciousness. Therefore, the things in the painting are not a factor. The only factor is the one who is conscious, which is himself, which maximizes the happiness of Verso because he no longer is. Mael's ending believes they do, and is worth preserving. Those of the painting would be obtusely impacted for the sake of one person, Painted Verso, and his suffering. Therefore, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. It is literally the trolley problem, and she is choosing the least harm. There are a lot of questions that you have to internalize before you pick one, and a lot of it is theory. Verso's soul is a very large amount of what makes this canvas what it is. It was painted by a younger man and his older sister. It is assumed you could not recreate this in any way, shape, or form. Esquier is a pure child's friend, a big, lovable creature whose sole job is to make sad people happy again. It can be assumed that all paintings here are one of a kind. Verso as well could probably never be remade as well as this Painted Verso is here due to the lack of his soul embodying this canvas. You can go online and buy a print of Liberty leading the people to frame and hang it up, but it's not the same as the original. A copy is just that, a copy. When you make a copy, you are recreating the image as is, not the work that went into the original. So Aline could never get that back even if she tried, no matter how skilled she is. Additionally, you have to look into Mael's ending really hard. The suffering from Painted Verso is extreme, but she isn't wrong to assume that he could become happy once again. In her ending, Verso doesn't appear distraught in what he's doing. He's visibly aged despite everyone else not being, and doing what he is supposed to love. And if you look closely, you can see a wedding ring on his finger. Now, his outfit is the Renoir one, which comes with a wedding ring, so this could be an oversight, but time has clearly passed for him specifically. Also, it isn't to say Mael can't move on either. She's pretty high-strung in that final boss fight. Who's to say she can never be convinced to leave the canvas again, especially now that Gustav has returned? We don't have exact specifics on the time in the canvas versus outside the canvas, but we know it's fast. We also don't know how long and how quickly it degrades you. Much like Verso, there is a world where Mael can make the choice to leave without her whole destruction. In the end, the game director is right. Both have pros and cons, and weighing up the importance of each is an exhilarating exercise. I haven't had this much fun writing a script in I think ever. I, personally, am a Mael ending believer, but I actually think the Verso ending is better made from a pacing and feeling sense, and I really do see the appeal of it genuinely. A lot of the initial distaste in the Mael ending is just the surface level pain it brings. It doesn't feel good having renowned voice actor Ben Starr beg for his life at the end of your game, and it doesn't feel also great having a jump scare sting in the ending. It really does push you into feeling like you chose the wrong one. Most of the game is Painted Verso suffering horribly for all kinds of reasons, so adding anything to that just feels really horrible. I also feel like, and I can't believe I'm saying this, that if Mael faced more suffering in the outside world and her abilities were more physically marred because of that, it would make a bit more sense for the viewer. If she could no longer paint in general or lost some of her functions, it would have more people in the, oh, well, I can't imagine living like that camp, and assist her case a little bit more. This might be a somewhat intentional misdirection, though, where the endings are stylized to look differently than their subtext implies. Versos is very lush and colorful and beautiful without any contrast or discord. It's almost hollow in an existential manner. It is silence achieved through obliteration. Mael, on the other hand, has a shift to that horror aesthetic. It's boxed into a 4:3 aspect ratio, much like all of the dreams Alicia had when she was Mael. Its tone shift does appear to be negative, but it presents itself as contradiction and non-resolution. Discomfort can only exist if there is comfort to balance it. Her path doesn't erase everything in a finality. It allows for vibrancy to exist. It might appear horrific, but one can only experience discomfort if there is comfort within somewhere. Clair Obscur is a painting style using extremely harsh contrasting colors and is the main basis for the canvas. Verso's ending is that of a normal painting, where Mael's is in pure black and white. In a sense, hers lives on immortal in Clair Obscur. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to do something very, very important now. Oh yeah, fuck Simon, by the way.